We're going to begin today's show with a riddle. Are you ready? Here goes. When is a microtransaction not a microtransaction? Well, according to Randy Pitchford, a microtransaction is not a microtransaction when it's in a Borderlands game. Randy Pitchford is the CEO of Gearbox Software. They are the developers behind the upcoming highly anticipated Borderlands 3. You may know Randy from one of his previous appearances here on Pretty Good Gaming back in 2017, when he blamed players and the reviewers for how bad the game Aliens Colonial Marines was. Now, according to Randy, it was nothing to do with the misleading marketing in the lead up to launch. It wasn't the trailer which showed off a graphically better version of the game than was actually shipped. And it was nothing to do with Gearbox setting an unrealistic expectation for the game and then not living up to it. No. The game was panned by players and critics because it was us who set our expectations too high. So the game was bad because we expected better. Right, Randy?
Wow, Gearbox is great. I expect this.
Yep.
Aliens is great. Gearbox is great. I expect this. And then I play the thing. God, it's not that. Something must have gone wrong. It couldn't be that they just didn't entertain us as well as they did, because if they wanted to entertain us, they really would have.
Well, Randy Pitchford, bullshitter extraordinaire, has been at it again, apparently trying to mislead players in the lead up to launching his new game, Borderlands 3. Mr. Pitchford took to the stage during the Borderlands 3 gameplay reveal livestream on Tuesday and said the following.
We're going to do some kick-ass campaign DLC, and I'm sure we're going to do all kinds of fun customizations like heads and skins, but we're not doing any of that free-to-play junk. There's not going to be any microtransactions. There's not going to be any of that nonsense.
There's not going to be any microtransactions. Those words seem pretty categorical to us. Upon hearing them, you would reasonably assume to expect Borderlands 3 to include no additional monetization in the form of a small payment which will unlock additional content in the game, otherwise known as a microtransaction. But according to Randy, that's not what he meant at all. Apparently, the game will feature additional monetization in the form of a small payment which will unlock additional content in the game, just not microtransactions. Is that clear? Borderlands 3 will include cosmetic items that can be purchased with real money, but Randy just doesn't want to call them microtransactions. In an interview with YouTuber Boogie2988, Randy elaborated.
There is no premium currency in Borderlands 3.
No premium currency.
There is no loot boxes. We're not selling any boosts or anything like that, microtransactions. Now we are planning and we'll be building campaign DLCs. I'm sure we're going to do cosmetics.
So DLC characters, DLC campaigns.
Well, we're going to do DLC campaigns for sure, and we're definitely going to do cosmetics like heads and skins and stuff like that.
Right.
And they're all optional. This is a commitment to no free-to-play style monetization.
Small one-off payments for in-game skins might seem like no big deal for most gamers who have seen far worse monetization in premium games in the past. But let's cut the bullshit here, Randy. It's a microtransaction. It's additional monetization. It's how they do it in free-to-play games. It is free-to-play style monetization.
But when gaming news outlet Game Informer pointed this out in an article, Randy was having none of it. He responded to the Game Informer tweet by saying, "Come on guys, shitty clickbait headline. Literally seconds before I said that, I made it very clear we're going to do more cosmetic stuff like we did in Borderlands 2. You know I was talking about premium currencies and loot boxes kind of stuff not being in our game. Why you guys would fuck me on this is beyond me. Thanks a lot." However, when Randy was challenged by another Twitter user, a straightforward yes or no question: can I buy with real money any kind of item in Borderlands 3? Such is Randy's commitment to the bullshit lifestyle, he couldn't even reply with a straight answer, opting instead to retort, "As I said at the live event, we'll be working on a big campaign DLC and will probably also offer additional cosmetics just as we did with Borderlands 2. What we will not do is free-to-play style microtransactions, no premium currency, loot boxes, etc."
So what Randy said on stage is he's going to do DLC, he's going to do skins and cosmetics, but no microtransactions. All those things can coexist, right? If you do free DLC, that's not unheard of, Randy, and skins, cosmetics, right, don't have to involve microtransactions. Plenty of games have free skins and free DLC. But in Randy's world, what those words mean and what those things mean is additional content in the game that you paid for that isn't a microtransaction. Bullshit!
It literally is. It's the very definition of microtransaction, because a transaction is when you buy something. A microtransaction is a small one, and it's applied here, buying with real money in game extra stuff. That's literally what all this is.
You're just making yourself look like a fool, Randy.
Not for the first time. He went on. Game Informer chose to make a clickbait tweet that muddied and confused the situation. I hope I've clarified for you. Andy from Game Informer pledged to correct issues with their reporting, but I've seen no evidence of that yet. This is when Editor-in-Chief at Game Informer, Andy McMara, decided to call Randy out on his BS. He posted a snippet from the article in question and said, "Here is the story. What here is incorrect? What is muddled? What is confusing about the situation? It's basically all quotes from you and your team, and yes, it is 4 a.m. Randy fired back. What is incorrect and muddled is the consequence of printing the words "won't have microtransactions" without also printing the words I said immediately before I said that. My words confirmed DLC, including heads and skins, then denied free-to-play tactics. Context is critical.
What's muddled here, Randy, is you. Like, your description of what's going on here. Your interpretation of what a microtransaction is. You trying to pass off this bullshit as not a microtransaction. It's a microtransaction. You're the one that's confused here, not anybody else.
Context is critical, yes, but you've established in your context that what you're doing should be a microtransaction. You just have decided not to call it that. But it is.
It's obvious that Randy Pitchford is trying his best to avoid any kind of backlash or controversy surrounding microtransactions in Borderlands 3. We've seen in the past games suffer from bad press and community outrage in reaction to horrible additional monetization practices in full-priced games. However, in trying to avoid the outrage, you can't simply lie. Or, if he's not technically lying, he's basically trying to redefine what the word microtransaction actually means. One thing is pretty certain to us though, he's definitely trying to bullshit his way out of any trouble which having microtransactions in his game will cause, making himself look like a fool in the process. Yes, it's not as bad as some games, and Borderlands 3 will probably be a well-beloved game in spite of it, but it will include cosmetic microtransactions, Randy, no matter how much you bullshit around that fact. The bigger problem for Randy though is how deceitful this whole episode has made him look. If we can't trust Randy to be straight talking about microtransactions in Borderlands 3, what else is he not being straight with us about? So this is just our take on this situation. You might sympathize with Randy, you might see his point in trying not to. I'm surmising that's what he's trying to do here. He's not come out and said, "Oh, I'm trying to avoid this kind of backlash." That's me jumping to his defense in a way by kind of trying to justify his actions. He's probably trying to avoid any sort of microtransaction backlash by saying it's not free to play, it's not the bullshit type of microtransaction, it's just this nice little microtransactions that people are okay with. But he's not saying it in them terms. He's saying there's no microtransactions at all, but there will be skins and additional things to. I mean, is that a microtransaction or isn't it? I know what I think, and we've put our case pretty clear in this article, in this video, but I'd like to know if you think any differently. And lastly, is he trying to deceive us? That's the question, right? Obviously, we know what we think, but is he purposefully trying to pull the wool over just to deceive you, just to trying to make it look better than it was? Kind of like they did with the trailer for Aliens Colonial Marines, you could say, if I could say it correctly. It kind of like that, where they're trying to pull the wool over, trying to make it seem a little bit better than it actually is. Who knows? Is this just a Randy up to his old tricks again? We know what we think. Let us know what you think in the comments.
Thing is though, if they just said, "Oh yeah, we're not doing loot boxes, we're not doing premium currency, we are going to do DLC and cosmetics and stuff," that's fine. Just don't say the no microtransactions part, because the problem is the lie. I feel like a lot of people were expecting there to be paid cosmetics and stuff because that was in Borderlands 2, right? As he himself has said, that's how we're doing it. Well, then you did it there, so you know what it is. You know it's a microtransaction, so don't lie. If you hadn't lied, people would be like, "Okay, cool."
It'd be fine, yeah.
Because I don't need the skins. I can get them if I want to. That's the argument. It's like it's all choice or whatever. He wouldn't have had this backlash and us shouting at him.
The irony of it is he's trying to avoid backlash from microtransactions, and in doing so causes backlash for being just a general asshole.
He's like, "Oh, I'm not greedy, but I am a liar." So
that's fine, eh? So next up, let's move on to our gaming news nuggets. And today we've got a juicy picking of nuggets. Oh my god, you're going to love them.
Kickstarter has been a useful tool for getting projects off the ground, with games like Star Citizen and Shenmue 3 being funded this way. Joining those prestigious titles is Subverse, a video game porn parody of Mass Effect. The game has passed 1,900,000 in donations and is meant to have a proper story and a grid-based combat system, and has become one of the biggest gaming Kickstarters of all time.
PS Plus free games for May have been announced. The first is the cooking sim Overcooked, developed by Ghost Town Games and published by Team 17. The other free game is What Remains of Edith Finch, the narrative adventure title developed by Giant Sparrow and published by Annapurna Interactive.
The new Sonic the Hedgehog movie trailer was released this week and it hasn't exactly gone down too well. However, after Sonic's character design was torn to shreds by the internet, the film's director has announced on Twitter that they will be redesigning him. This information came out after we recorded our podcast for this week, but we do discuss our thoughts on the character there, so go and check that out this coming Sunday.
All of Mortal Kombat 11's biggest issues lie with the game's grind, but some players have found workarounds. One method has been to set the character Noob Saibot as an AI and make him run the challenge towers for you to farm currency. Evidently, not actually playing the game you paid for is more rewarding.
The DLC roadmap for World War Z has just been announced. The first season of free updates covers May, June and July and will add new missions, new zombie types and a survival mode. The game launched on May the 16th to fairly average reviews and is available on PS4, Xbox One and PC.
Ghost Recon Wildlands got some new missions added yesterday. The new missions feature the Punisher himself. No, not Thomas Jane, John Bernthal. The new missions, called Operation Oracle, are coming alongside a free weekend with the game, which is happening this weekend and seems to set the stage for more Ghost Recon content or a sequel in the future.
Rage 2 is out in a few weeks on PS4, Xbox One, PC and the Dreamcast. Now, it's not technically a Dreamcast, it's actually a custom PC stuffed inside a Dreamcast shell. You can enter the competition for the chance to win the Dreamcast, but it won't play Sonic Adventure, so why even fucking bother?
Don't Nod's Life is Strange 2 got a new trailer for the third episode. The episode will be out on May the 9th on PS4, Xbox One and PC.
Dark indie PC game Darkwood is coming to consoles later this month. The game originally came to PC back in 2017 and features creepy top-down survival horror gameplay. It will be coming to PS4 on the 14th of May, Switch on the 16th of May, and Xbox One on the 17th of May.
According to those bigwigs at Activision, Sekiro Shadows Die Twice is performing way better than expected. Chief Operating Officer Collister Johnson had this to say: "We couldn't be more pleased with the collaboration, execution and response to From Software's critically acclaimed title from gaming communities worldwide." So there you have our gaming news nuggets for today. Links to everything that we've just discussed are down in the description of this video if you want to go and check them out. Now it's time to do a joke. And today's dad joke, sponsored by the Discord, which you can access at patreon.com/prettygoodgaming, comes in from Lochka. He says, "My wife likes to talk to me during sex. Last night she called me from a hotel." That's good. Nice one, dude. For that awesome joke, as well as dozens of other additional jokes on a weekly basis, head over to patreon.com/prettygoodgaming and you can get access to the Patreon Discord, where you can converse with like-minded fellows like yourselves, and me and Henry, we're there and we're sharing jokes and we're having a good time. It's just a good time for all. You can support the channel and get rewarded with that in return. So, why wouldn't you do it?
Anthem, as it turned out, wasn't the masterpiece BioWare and EA envisioned when they dubbed it the Bob Dylan of video games. Players and reviewers were disappointed with what was delivered on release and criticised the game for its lack of content, gameplay issues, and long loading times, among other issues. The saving grace for players who bought the game expecting better was that this is a service-based game, and no matter what state the game was in at launch, things can only get better with time. However, last week BioWare admitted that things weren't going as planned with regard to post-launch content. In a blog post last week, BioWare confirmed that much of the upcoming content promised in the original roadmap had been delayed indefinitely. Quote, "We have been prioritizing things like bug fixes, stability, and game flow over the new features of Act 1. We set aside time for this work, but the reality is there are more things to fix and improve than we planned for." The list of features which were delayed included the Mastery System, Guilds, Legendary Missions Phase 2, Weekly Stronghold Challenge, Leaderboards, some free play events, and the Cataclysm. system. In fact, the only updates which made the 1.1.0 patch were a new stronghold called the Sunken Cell, access to the Forge anywhere in the world, the ability to launch a new expedition from the end of expedition menu without loading into Fort Tarsis, and access to contracts without having to run around and pick them up. The worst part was that they didn't actually confirm when any of the missing content would be coming. Not exactly the support players were expecting from a AAA big money game like Anthem.
This week things began looking a bit more ominous for the future of the game when it was reported that many of the top names behind Anthem had moved on to other projects. Both executive director Mark Darrah and lead producer Michael Gamble have reportedly began working on Dragon Age 4. Amidst the speculation on Anthem's future, BioWare's Chad Robertson took to Twitter to clarify, "We remain 100% committed to Anthem and look forward to showing players the new content we're working on. We want to make sure we aren't over-promising, so our updates on what's coming in the game will be focused when we have things near completion." Lead producer Gamble backing him up, saying, "There's been a lot of incorrect speculation on this. The studio's support and commitment to Anthem has not changed. Unfortunately, as much support and commitment as the studio may or may not be showing right now, it's the players and community who will decide if the game and the studio really deserve their support and commitment from here on in." So this is a right mess with Anthem. They've overpromised, they haven't delivered. Other people have moved off the project onto other projects. It seems like the biggest fear in the back of people's minds is that they're gonna give up on Anthem. BioWare might get shut down. EA have got track record with shutting down development studios. Who knows what the future lies? If this really is such a bad result for EA, it's not beyond them to do that. So the question mark lies, are the players going to remain loyal to this game for the player base that are still there? Are they going to continue to support the devs even though they've just not delivered on pretty much anything that they said they were going to?
The Cataclysm was the big thing they were all talking about. It's going to be this big world-changing event. It's going to reshape the look of the map. All your gameplay is going to be indifferent, but that isn't happening anymore.
Well, we don't know when that's happening.
Yeah,
it's going to come at an indefinite time in future. They're going to let us know when they feel like it. And in the meantime, a lot of the big names from who are leading the game have moved on to other things. What are we supposed to? What are the players supposed to think?
I feel like the real cataclysm will be when BioWare eventually gets shut down by EA because the game's just not what it should be. They're having such a hard time.
Writing's on the wall now, isn't it?
So that's it for your Friday news roundup and for us for the rest of the week. We'll be back this Sunday with our podcast where we talk about the Sonic movie, we talk about Star Citizen, and a bunch of other stuff. If you want to get access to the podcast right now, as of watching this very video, go on over to patreon.com/prettygoodgaming. You'll also get access to the Discord channel. As we mentioned, there's so many quality jokes and just as many truly terrible ones. So the line's pretty blurred on whether they're good or bad. We'll see you again on Monday. I've been Henry. He's been Gaz. We'll see you next time. Bye for now.
All your outtakes we go blah, blah, blah. Can you stick them on the end instead of just fucking me being an idiot?
But this is the reward
of doing all the editing.
Is I get to sabotage it.
Fine, I'll take it.
Well, because the blahs, they're only funny in he went blah.
Montage of blahs.
Blah.